Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Dr. Christopher S. Black is a chiropractor who focuses on the healing needs of the entire family. He is the owner of DocBlack Family Chiropractic, which encompasses the chiropractic offices of CS Black Family Chiropractic in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Narragansett Family Chiropractic in Narragansett, Rhode Island. Dr. Black helps his patients think differently about their journey back to health by utilizing traditional chiropractic care along with structural chiropractic correction. Dr. Black has also been leveraging a carnivore diet with himself and his patients with great success. The vision of the entire team at DocBlack Family Chiropractic is the following, quote, "We create relationships with families that seek a better life. As a chiropractic office, we get to hold the hands of those that seek greater health and the discovery of their own unique gifts. We love serving those that are actively engaged in their lives, families, and well-being. Through this journey, we are bound by the commonality of laughter, love, faith, and belief of the things that are possible," end quote. Doc Black Family Chiropractic has your back, and your back holds the keys to less pain and better health. Dr. Christopher Black, what an honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Hey, Casey, thanks so much for finding me and inviting me onto your show. It's an honor to be part of that group of guests that you've pulled together over a little bit. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to have you. We've been very fortunate with all of the people that we've gotten to talk to over the years of doing this. There is a first take of that introduction that nobody will ever hear, which has me mispronouncing poorly, very poorly, Narragansett. Tough word to say.
You did pretty good. I was watching it happen, like a slow motion video, and you got about halfway through, and then you fell apart. Great attempt. It's
I really tried.
Up in the Northeast, a lot of Indian names naming their towns and things, so it definitely gets confusing a little bit. But you did a good job.
Tricky one. Thank you very much. I'm so glad nobody gets to look at my notes where I'm like actually writing out like phonetically how things are said. It really helps me out.
Exactly. Cool.
Oh,
cool.
Man. Well, I want to lead off by talking chiropractic, but we did mention something in the introduction about carnivore diet. And so I do just want to bring something up and I want to hear your reaction. So this weekend, I just got back from Low Carb Denver, amazing show put on by Dr. Jeffrey Gerber. Dude, just getting to meet all of our heroes. Sean Baker, Amber O'Hearn, like all these amazing people, Dr. Ken Berry, all these amazing people are there and they're presenting and they're so kind, like literally all of them making presentations on stage, getting off the stage and waiting there for all the people to ask their questions, take their pictures. They're the most amazing people. And just one experience we had with Sean Baker's presentation, he got up on stage and he said, "I want you to raise your hand if you're human." So the entire conference raised their hand. Then he says, "I want you to keep your hand raised if you have been eating more meat and less fruits and vegetables than you have in quite a while." And then he said, "Keep your hand up if you feel better than you ever have now." And then he asks, "Okay, keep your hand raised if you're planning on continuing to not eat very many fruits and vegetables." And I always sit in the front row for these things. And so I just looked behind me and was so flabbergasted. I grabbed my phone, I ran to the front of the building so I could take a picture. It was like the entire room. And I posted that, and somebody on my social media was like, "Well, it's really self-selected, and this isn't like how science should be done." But anecdotally, I could say that's true for most of the people that I have worked with on carnivore diets. I'm curious to hear what you think of that experience.
It's certainly going to a community event like that. It's empowering for our soul, right? So that way we know that there are other people out there that think like us. And then to see the humility of those people who that are speaking from the platform, but their willingness to not only share their journey, and they are very transparent with a lot of it, and some of it's sticky and ugly and gross, but it gets them to where they are. But they're there really to serve and help. And you said that on one of your other podcasts, like, "Oh my God, I'm rubbing elbows with the quote unquote giants of our passions right now." And it's an amazing time. And certainly I think we are, as a collective, doing the right thing. Twofold. One, we're seeing somebody like Ken Berry on the cover of the magazines in the grocery store. Now, certainly those things target the hot trend and all of that. But if you scroll through TikTok, if you scroll through all the social media, just out there, our message is starting to permeate the masses because twofold. One, it's an undeniable truth. And when people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, they start to self-seek. Long gone are the days of, "Well, my doctor said," and that was the end all be all. If the last couple of years haven't taught us anything, we really need to be wary sometimes of where the information is coming from. And we have at our disposal a wealth of information or avenues in which to gather information that have been unprecedented in our time. So the truth is kind of finding it. That light in the darkness is being flickered, and somebody's like, oh my God, what's that? And it's almost like a multi-level marketing company. I tell a friend, you tell a friend, you tell a friend, but the results are so pronounced and undeniable that somebody looks at somebody who's been suffering for a while. And when I went through my transition, in and of itself through the journey, people who had known me 6 months, a year before saw me. Their initial shock was, you look so different. Like, first of all, it's, are you okay? Like, you don't have cancer or anything, do you? And I'm like, no, I feel better than I have in my entire life. I'm going towards 50, feeling better, looking better than I was when I was 30. And people want to know, why is that? So yeah, and secondarily to that is, we're doing such a good job. The powers to be that don't like what we do are ramping up their efforts to discredit us.
That's right.
Oh my God, we're going to hurt somebody. You're going to kill somebody. Or, I mean, Dr. Baker is an amazing example of that. Here's a guy who was entrenched in that allopathic system. I'm an orthopedist. I cut, I open, I get paid to do that. I generate revenue. Then he said, there's a better way. I'm a healer first do no harm. And then he started to do the right thing by that patient. But look, the financial revenues for the system were broken. So he wasn't practicing the standard of care for his profession. So he got penalized. Like, are you kidding me? We should be celebrating that, publishing journals, doing studies, but there's no money in wellness or health or self-accountability.
Yeah, no,
So
that's so well said.
And it's, we are now victimizing and making things that are unhealthy okay. And again, I'm not to rag on anybody who's, maybe a little bit, obese or whatever, but those aren't healthy things. And I want everybody to feel good about where they are, but we need to notice that that might not be the best place for you as a human, but to give them just that gratification. And it's okay to be here. Well, it's okay to love yourself, but it's not healthy to be here. We need to bring you back to whatever might be your best health. And it's not going to be a size 0, supermodel, but yet you can be a lot healthier than you are today. And that was a big part of my journey. And that's something I'm doing every day, is we can make a better decision on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, meal-by-meal basis and not beat ourselves up for what we've done in the past. But we have to recognize that our past might not have been our best effort.
Man, so well explained. I love the way you separated out like the shaming side of things versus like, let's be honest, like there is metabolic unhealth going on. It's, yeah, you're big, you should love yourself, that's great, but you should also really seek to become healthy and have good metabolic health. Those are two different things.
Correct. And we need to love ourselves enough to never stop seeking the answer, right? And I see that with patients in our office. They get so burnt out and so tired. And a lot of our medical diagnoses, if you will, are descriptive analysis. They're not cause fibromyalgia. Okay, you have soft tissue pain. Awesome. Why? Why fibromyalgia? Again, that's an endpoint. That means that system doesn't have another answer for you. So here's a name. Now I can hold on to it. And I think we celebrate disease and sickness more than health in our society. So when you start to get a patient who's had a chronic condition that they can have a name to, they can join a Facebook group to commiserate with, they can use it as an excuse to not do something. And you, through your process of whether it be what you're doing or what I'm doing, or even just sharing that information with a friend, they start to see their health improve, but yet they're losing a piece of their quote unquote identity. So they will self-sabotage because we celebrate sickness and disease versus the celebration of success towards health. Even if it's little. I mean, you've gone down 2 pant sizes. That's enormous, right? So we've lost that celebration of health and wellness and success and questioning for, I have a condition and that defines me rather than my journey. So our system's a little messed up. So
it's a little messed up.
Jealous. I'm just jealous that, you surrounded yourself with the giants of our times in our field. And it's an empowering place to be, and they're all just great servants. And I think that this community, through social media like this, the telling of the stories, even the anecdotals with that one patient, inspires another one. I'm sharing with patients via text, podcasts all day long, a video testimony of somebody. Look, here's somebody, she reminded me of you. You can do it. And it's just simple. It's like, oh, there's somebody else, and it's just not that crazy chiropractor, that crazy nutrition guy who's doing it. No, we're starting to grow. And at some point, it's working, I mean, I really
think you're right. I think you're right.
Because they're ramping up they're ramping up the rhetoric to discredit what we do because it's so darn effective.
Yep. Yep. No, that's such a good point. Even today, I was on the ice playing hockey. I scored a very rare goal. One of my buddies was like, "Wow, how'd you do that? Is it all those eggs that you eat?" Because he knows me from social media. And I yelled to him on the other side of the bench, like, "Don't eat plants." And a stranger next to me who was playing with us was like, "Oh, the carnivore diet." And it's like, yes, okay, it's
Correct.
getting out there. We're getting to that
Correct.
point where it's going to be very difficult to ignore this kind of surge of people that's starting to reverse age and feel better and lose weight, have amazing energy, like get off meds, deprescribe medications. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think long gone. I'm Generation X, born in 72, and I would say that the population of men, particularly in my age bracket, that aren't on a statin drug or some sort of medication, it's getting smaller, right, as the generation goes. And I think some of it's by design. If you can get a 40-year-old on a statin drug, you have a client for life. Then we're starting to see what that lack of ability to process cholesterol is doing. I mean, we're, pretty soon I'll forget what's going on because of the horrible things it's doing to our, neurological systems and overall health and Alzheimer's. I mean, it's catastrophic, and it's good to see people starting to question that, and or at least push back from their general practitioner, because I don't put the blame on that individual doctor who, graduated school to try to get better. That's what they know, and that's all they know. And they're fearful. I got to make money. So if I don't have the time to consult with a patient, I don't maybe necessarily even have the skill set to do so. I don't know where to go to it. I get intimidated by a patient who actually knows more about something than I do. So my ego comes up. So it's very rare, and there are out there. I mean, look at Ken Berry. He was a great example of that. He was taught, the master became the student, and then it all kind of journeyed through that way. But it takes those few to get that message out there. And I hope we have a paradigm shift, right? It's a challenge, but we got to keep telling the story and living the example. And, maybe we can have a generation of children that do live that way.
Yep. Yep. Who knows? I mean, just like that starfish story, it's like, there's thousands of starfish on the beach and the little girl's throwing them in. And the guy's like, dude, you're never going to be able to like throw all this starfish in. And she picks one up and throws it in and said, well, it made a difference to that one. So hopefully somebody listening today will take this. They can then implement that into their lives and share with other people. And you're right. I think we can get this message out. It's an unconventional message. It's different than what the convention tells us, which you, my friend, are very familiar with as a chiropractor.
Absolutely.
I want to get back to diet here in a little bit, but I really wanted to learn from you about the world of being a chiropractor. What is that like? Like, what are some of how did you get into it to get started? What drew you to that field?
I think that there are certain things that come into our lives, and if we pay attention to, they're there for a reason, right? I was 16 years old, and I wanted to be an architect, and I just thought that was cool. I loved drawing things and all that. I was involved in the martial arts, and my mom and dad had gone to a local chiropractor because my dad had suffered from low back pain all his life. And he went to this chiropractor, and going through their analysis and telling of the story. And he's like, oh, yeah, children. Yeah, I have a son at home. He's involved in my martial arts. Oh, you should bring him in. So 16-year-old punk kid coming into a doctor's office, right? And he spoke to me. He talked to me. And he took the x-rays and he analyzed and drew lines on it and said, hey, here's where your spine is. Here's where it should be. This is the chiropractic story. And he was a really traditional chiropractor. And something inside him was like, oh my God, it made sense, right? Because I was involved in lifting weights and martial arts and karate, but then also that analysis of like architecture and drawing and structure and function. And I said, oh my God, I want to be a chiropractor. So literally at 16, because I had all my high school classes laid out. So I actually designed as my senior project, my chiropractic office in high school, which was pretty cool, right? It totally a trajectory change. And at the time, I didn't even need a bachelor's degree to get into chiropractic school. That has since changed as a profession, but I literally went from high school to our local college with my chiropractic course book. And I just literally checked off the 60 or 90 credits that I needed. 2 organic chems, boom. I left there and went to chiropractic school. I graduated at 24 years old, and I wanted to be a chiropractor. There's nothing else I wanted to do, and I spent less time studying biochemistry and all those stupid classes that I didn't consider important classes because nobody asked me what my grade in biochemistry was today. and hanging out at chiropractic offices and just standing in the corner and seeing how it would work, talking to the old timers. Because what's hard to even wrap my head around, and I tell the story to people, is I've actually in my lifetime have had dinner with chiropractors who were arrested for practicing chiropractic because it was illegal in their state at the time.
Wow.
And it boggles the mind in 2023 that up until I believe it was 1972, the last state, I think it was Louisiana, finally licensed chiropractors. So it was illegal for an individual to practice in some states, and they actually got arrested, went to jail, had to come up. And it boggles the mind because the machine didn't like something that was different, right? And chiropractic was different. The first chiropractic patient had no back pain. Chiropractic was created by a fellow called Daniel David Palmer, D.D. Palmer. He was the magnetic healer in Davenport, Iowa. And he would heal people by using magnetic healing, touch. There was a janitor in his building that he got familiar with who had lost his hearing after a number of years of hard labor. So DD was analyzing that. I couldn't get him better with his magnetic healing, but he noticed a lump in his back. And the story goes, he reset that lump in his back and Harvey's hearing came back. Holy crap. DD Palmer says, I got the cure for deafness. So he advertised the heck out of that. And guess what? People from around that tri-state area would come in deaf. Most of them left. Guess what? Deaf, because an adjustment wasn't a cure for any one condition. But what he noticed is, okay, Casey came in deaf, he's still deaf, but his diabetes was better, or his headaches were better, or his, this condition, that condition cleared up. Well, what was that connection? And it was the alignment of the spine and its functionality of the nervous system. So there comes the genesis of chiropractic, which was different than the blood methods of, the outside in condition, the bacteria is going to jump up and bite you, or God, they were bloodletting back then. And, osteopathy, although we get confused sometimes, Andrew Still created osteopathy based on the blood flow theory, which was very popular back in that time, where the chiropractic was a little bit more on the nerve function. So although some of the maneuvers may appear to be similar, at least originally the philosophies were different. And then it just expanded and it expanded and expanded because guess what? It helped people. It helped people where the system at the time didn't. So people sought chiropractic very often as a last resort. There used to be chiropractic hospitals, chiropractic sanitariums where, they would work on these patients and keep records of improving mental function. Because if, you were in a sanitarium in the 30s, probably a very unhappy place to be. So if you were lucky, you would get to go to like a Clearview sanitarium and they would work you up the chiropractic, probably some diet nutrition at the time, because like we had spoken earlier, if you're not a healthy vessel or a healthy ball of clay, you can only heal so far.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So that was really the genesis of chiropractic, just helping really sick people. And, over times, in order for us to integrate into the system, or maybe the allopathic model wanted, they tried to eliminate us and contain us, and we sued them and won in the night. The AMA really was horrific. And it was illegal for medical doctors to associate even professionally with chiropractors. It was taught in their education in the 50s, 60s, don't associate with those chiropractors, they're quacks. So that whole campaign of just destroying or undermining the profession because of, results and money and control and all of that. So that is the stuff that inspires me, right? So I loved those stories. So I would hang out at chiropractic offices, just learn from the masters. I've actually had, again, like I said, dinner with the old timers and just sitting around, like at your conference at Colorado, it's the talks after, it's the getting together at the restaurant or at the bar, just listening to those anecdotes. Or, I've been blessed to take care of a lot of chiropractors over the years as they start to retire. And this one fella came in and his dad graduated in 1912 and he couldn't come back to Rhode Island to practice because it was illegal. So he had to go to Virginia. And then he came back to Rhode Island once it became legal. And he remembers growing up, it was a home office. And he says, I used to see people come in wheelchairs and carried in, and my dad would take care of these people. And, 2 or 3 months later, they're coming in, just getting checked. He said, I grew up expecting the miracles. And then he was the one who really turned me on to the fact. He says, people are just different now. When he retired in like 2015, he's like, yeah, just something about the people. They're just not able to heal up, and he couldn't kind of put into words what we shared earlier, that they're just not healthy anymore. And of course, we have stress, Wi-Fi, EMF, the foods we're consuming, all of that. So we as a species, I think, are becoming sicker. So the modalities like chiropractic or acupuncture, they're helping, but yet probably not taking that individual as far as our forefathers had once done, right? So just to say that one modality is the end all be all, as I think it's a little naive to say that in today's world, right? I mean, I don't think massage is the only answer. I don't think chiropractic is the only answer. I don't think physical therapy is the only answer. Certainly don't think medicine is the answer. I mean, if I fall off and break my arm, or God forbid something happens with my children, yeah, I'm grateful that emergency sickness care model is there, but in order to maintain health, boy, they've not done a good job.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we have to be exposed to the truth out there. And I think, talking about diet. Now, again, I'm not a nutritionist. I share with my patients the things that I've experienced in my own health and how I've seen it relate to my ability to help a patient. And if they get adjustments and they feel better, but yet they've changed their diet and chiropractic is not for them, but they're continuing to improve in other aspects, then I think I've done a good job. Should they have chiropractic care for a longer period of time as a maintenance? Sure. But again, they've made a change. And some people just don't want to get well, which is frustrating. But
that's frustrating. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Wow.
So
okay.
That was it was a lot there. So I kind of went off track. I don't know if
that was
near what you wanted.
That was amazing. That was awesome. I love that. And that was going to be one of my questions for you. And I want to come back to a lot of the other things that chiropractic is great for, because I think most people think that it's just back pain. And so
Absolutely.
So let's use that as an example just for now. Let's say I'm experiencing back pain. How do I know? How do I know where to go? Do I go to the doctor? Do I go to the physical therapist? Do I go to the chiropractor? Do I go get a personal trainer? Do I get the massages? Like, there's so many different things. How do you know where to get started, and where is chiropractic best for something like that?
That's a great question. In the reality of things, I would say, well, probably the least, I don't want to say aggressive from a derogatory, but the least invasive any procedure to initiate any type of care is probably best, right? In today's world, the conversation we're having in 2023 is different than we might have had 20 years ago, right? So if you went to an orthopedic now, because a lot of people there, primary care physician would say, Casey, you got a little back pain, just rest, take some anti-inflammatories. If it doesn't improve, see me in 30 days, and then we'll send you to an orthopedist, right? So now, if you went to an orthopedist, nobody in their right mind would take a 40-year-old male who's functioning well, who's in discomfort of about a 4 out of 5, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 on a good day, ups and downs. X-ray shows some slight degenerative change, MRI, maybe a little disability, but no orthopedic in their mind right now would risk doing surgery on somebody who's relatively healthy, right? Because they've gotten a lot more conservative. 20 years ago, everybody's getting surgery, everybody's getting infused, but we've realized that that's not always the best option. So then they may in turn then send you to a physical therapist. Fine, great profession, but sometimes, not to rag on physical therapists, is they look at a 40-year-old male who's sat his entire life, who's overweight, hasn't been exercising in 30 years, lay him on the table, oh, you have tight hamstrings. No kidding, right? Or you have muscle contractures and you're in spasm, you're listing, your body's antalgic, you're in crisis right now because your back is hurting you, quote unquote. So they will go through their protocol, sometimes palliative, meaning we'll do some ultrasound stim, try to get the inflammation down, get the irritation, send you home with some home stretches. Now, again, I'm generalizing. I'm not, saying that that's every case, but a lot of times they'll go to that muscle asymmetry, tightness model of things, right? Great. The person gets maybe 80% better, but never fully holds, or sometimes gets worse because it was more activity than their bodies had in a decade, right? So a good idea conceptually, but that person wasn't ready for that. Then they might try a massage therapist because their, sister says, oh, see my massage therapist. Great. Chronic muscle spasm. You got some trigger points that are referring pain into other areas. Yes, that's all probably there. Work out the massage, felt great. 2 or 3 days later, it didn't really feel better. It came back. Went to my personal trainer. Yeah, you know what? When I'm doing a squat, it seems like my one leg canter is more than the other, but there's really no structural anomalies. I have these patterns that are neurological. I'm, okay, well, we're going to work on you that. Great. May exacerbate the condition, right? Make you feel better a little bit, but then you're exacerbated. And then that's when they very often come to me as the last resort, right? So in that case, which is fine, I like to look at where they're at. What have you been doing? Great, good. Okay, so that stuff isn't, not one of those things was the thing, right? So I like to go down to that next level. Yes, you have muscle spasm, you have trigger points. Those suck, they cause pain, dysfunction. But why is that? Those muscles, particularly the postural muscles, do not have a mind of their own. You cannot flex your psoas muscle consciously. Go ahead, flex. Let me say, can't do it. Those muscles, particularly the deeper muscles, are initiated, triggered, and fired based on what's going on in that nervous system. If that body's imbalanced, in pain, in spasm, proprioception is down, all of those things, if something's not firing right, those things are going to go into contracture. They might have a weakness or a patterning firing mechanism for all of that. So if we're only working on the soft tissue component, but not getting down to why that is, and then from a chiropractic standpoint, I feel is, boy, if that functionality of the spine isn't moving, we know now that, the movement of the spine, the flexibility of those individual segments has proprioception, and there's just so much, plus the pressure on the nerve system and pain and all that. If we don't clear that, you're going to have, guess what, reoccurring muscle spasm, reoccurring limits in your range of motion, ebbs and flows in your symptoms, then ultimately chronic degeneration, then you have arthritis, so it's a whole sequelae of things. So going back to the original question is if we can find out the cause, and if the cause is aberrant movement of the spinal joints, we call that a subluxation, putting pressure on the nervous system, which is then causing secondary responses, whether it be altered gait, chronic muscle spasm, trigger points, referred pain, chronic pain, numbness, tingling, whatever. Remove those obstructions to healing. Then the body can be in a better tone. Go, oh, I don't need as much muscle spasm. So then when you get to the physical therapist, oh, this is your pattern. You have more flexibility, but boy, you have residual chronic tightness XYZ. Let's work on that. You get to the massage therapist after an adjustment. Their body's at a better state of tone. So the muscle spasm and trigger points that they have are residual. He or she works on those. Wow, that massage worked great. It lasted longer, right? So it all kind of works together. But now with the information that I've garnered over the 5 years, they're then eating seed oils, carbohydrates, crap, their body's going to be in a chronic state of inflammation. So they're only going to get you're mixing cement with sand and cement and water, but not at the right ratio. So you'll still have cement, but it's not as strong. It's thick. It's weaker, right? So if we're not fortifying that individual on all of its needs, like a spokes on a wheel, we're going to get healing, but not optimal healing. Yeah. That was another long-winded answer, but it really works great when we all work together. And you know what? In all honesty, as a 51-year-old male, my answers to some of these questions are different than when I was 24 right out of school. If you said to me, a patient comes in with acute low back pain, they've been totally stupid. Their body has reached what I call a limitation of matter, right? The body can adapt, but there's only a limit, right? You can only have a limitation before the body taps out, I'm done. And that's where pain comes in. So, somebody comes in with a hot low back and they're miserable. I can't even really give them a good correction. They just can't tolerate it. 24-year-old Chris would have been like, dude, suck it up. Let's get it. Let's move the bone, let the body heal. 50-year-old Chris, who some days does something stupid, is like, wow, I really feel like shit. Maybe I do need to regulate my pain a little bit. Now, again, knowing that taking a poison to reduce something is not health, but it gives my body a pause to say, okay, I gotta take a break. Now I can do an intervention that's going to be restorative, right? So I do not advocate pharmaceuticals in any way, but the reality is sometimes people come to us so broken and so damaged that they need a little bit of help. And that's where traditional medicine has its place to help us. Then we can get that body to start to heal and correct itself, get rid of that poison and let that inborn innate healing take over. It's like taking a 50-year-old guy who's a diabetic. Yeah, you got to put out the fire, but yet move them towards health. And I'm grateful that intervention is there to prolong that life. So hopefully we can get them on the right path.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, that was a lot there. But yeah, so
Dude,
we all,
so good. So
if
good.
we in healthcare eliminate the ego from the individual practitioner, we can all work together. Very often, we're all chasing the same piece of the financial pie. So you're a chiropractic patient, you're a physical therapy patient, you're a massage. No, no, no. We got to kind of work it together for what's best for that patient. And I've seen patients that are in such distress and their discs are blown out. And, we've gotten them to the best help we can, even beyond me, because it was really, just you're a mess. Let's put out the fire and I can help you, but I need some more information. They hit them with a 5-day, 10-day dose of prednisone, poison, massive anti-inflammatory though. Now they can at least put their pants on and they can get out of bed so they can get to my office, right? So the reality is did that prednisone heal them? Absolutely not. But it did allow some of that tone to come down so then we can move forward with that.
Yeah.
Sadly though, 80% of the population will stay on prednisone or stay on ibuprofen, not do anything while I have no symptoms. So I'm in health. And then they just further destroy their tissues, and then they're 50 years old and can't do anything, right? So it all of us have our place, and if we eliminate that ego and work together and communicate like they did at that conference, you had multiple disciplinarians there, all speaking the same language of getting that individual better.
Yeah,
So.
no, that's a great example. I was sitting in one of the panels and, you've got several cardiologists, Nina Teicholz, Dr. Nadir Ali, Dr. Westman, David Diamond, like Amy Berger and I were talking afterwards, like we shouldn't have all of these people in the same place. Like if the stage collapsed and all of them died, we would lose like a huge. No, we got to separate these guys. But they were having a pretty heated debate about the use of statins. And one of them was saying, like, statins should not be used. They're not effective. They're not good for anything. And the other doctor was saying, like, look, in clinical practice, I have seen it help some people. It's not for everybody. And I loved that we were able to have that debate very respectfully, because you're right. Like, there is a place for everything. It's not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. When we say that healthcare is terrible, the system sucks, it's like, well, it doesn't suck that bad when you break your arm, and it doesn't suck that bad, if you have something serious going on. There's a place for all of it. So I think that's a wonderful point.
The old timers used to say, again, from a chiropractic, chiropractic first, medicine second, surgery last, right? And again, going from that level of intensity of intervention, you always want to do the least that you can, right? And then grow from there. And I think that's a good place to start. But we are educated every time we turn on the TV, we're dismissing the body's own warning systems, right? Oh, you're in pain, take this, we'll block it. Well, you wouldn't drive down the road, see your oil light and go, God, man, that light is so annoying. Let me put a piece of tape over it.
Right.
And keep driving. Right. So we're trained to dismiss pain. Going through an intake. Oh, so tell me what's going on. You're here for your low back. I palpate their neck and their, it's like, so tell me about these headaches. I don't even know, but I know, right? And they're like, oh, I get my normal headaches. Oh, normal headaches. Tell me about that normal headache. It's like a normal tumor. Like, tell me why is that a normal thing? Tell me about it. And then you go, well, I've had them all my life and okay, just letting you know, not normal. Tooth pain, not normal. By the time you have tooth pain, you're screwed. You're already 6 months to a year of degenerative change before that nervous system is conveying pain that there's a problem. 10% of the nervous system conveys pain. You can have an awful lot of dysfunction before pain is transmitted up to the body. Then it will do really weird things to prevent pain from continuing. You'll have degeneration, you'll have, compensations and all of that. And then you finally get that end tissue result, the limitations of matter, as I said before, and then you're blown out and then you just can't function. So we are taught by taking this pill, this potion, this lotion, even sometimes using good things like chiropractic, massage and physical therapy, even acupuncture as a modality rather than an art of transformation, right? If I take chiropractic and I only look at somebody's neck pain, because they come in with neck pain, and I use chiropractic as a modality, meaning I don't want to even call it, because we use an appropriate specific correction of the spine. We call it an adjustment. But if you just take somebody and wail on them to relieve their neck pain, I call that a manipulation because it's not scientific and specific. Okay. So if I just do that but yet I'm looking back and, they have one short leg that's a half inch and their low back is blown out. And the furthest point away from that is their neck. Guess what? They're going to have neck symptoms, but I've done nothing to correct that. I've used chiropractic in an allopathic model. So guess what? It's not going to be functioning. A lot of times you'll have dabblers in something like acupuncture. Ooh, acupuncture has been proven to release headache pain. Great. But they're using the healing art of acupuncture as a modality rather than what it's designed for. You have blockages in your internal ability to be healthy. Let's open them up through their modality and reset that person as a human. Somebody's headaches in my practice might be coming from their lower back and have nothing to do with their neck. And if I don't ask that question, I'm only using it as a modality, and that's a discredit to my profession as well as to that patient.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
that's where I think dabbling in other people's territory is bad for the patient.
Gotcha. Yeah, very interesting. I love that point. So we mentioned earlier, I think most people, myself included, probably would think like, okay, chiropractor is for spinal pain, something to do with the spine.
Sure.
What do you wish most people would know about chiropractic work? And let's start with the things that you would consider yourself, you're the guy for. You could fix this in your sleep, you're batting 1,000. Like, what other things is chiropractic really, really great for that maybe is less known by people?
That's a really interesting question, because through the course of my day, I will see somebody who, for example, is 98 years old and has neuropathy in their feet. They've been to every doctor. They've told, well, it's just old age. Neuropathy in their feet, meaning they have numbness and pain at the bottom of their feet. Just getting old. Parts are wearing out. That's what you're dealing with. And I took care of this guy literally for a year. He would come in on a regular basis. We'd adjust him. It was a great encounter. And then one day he said to me, he says, "Oh, just want to let you know, that numbness in my feet, that's been gone." So, what do you mean it's been gone? Yeah, it was gone like 6 months ago. It went away. I'm like, really? So I'll see something like that. I'll see the mom whose child has had a horrific seizure disorder, has been through everything under the sun. And actually, there's one family that I think about. I've actually had the privilege of going to their home and adjusting them at home while the poor daughter was in this horrible seizure. And, these are the great joys that you have. It's horrible, but what an honor to be asked to do that. And chiropractic by no means was trying to cure this young lady's epilepsy. It was trying to restore the tone in her body to get her to be able to be at peace so she could heal. So I've had that. She and that family was the one who reignited my passion in the low carbohydrate world, because they were putting her on a ketogenic diet to try to, we'll go back to that one. I'll have that, the stressed out mom who has chronic headaches. I'll get numbness down the arm. I'll get very often children with ear infections, because again, 5 rounds of antibiotics and 2, tube surgeries, and the ear infections are coming back. Well, let me try chiropractic. I've had some people that, have been given grave diagnoses of terminal cancer, and I've heard that, hey, you know what, getting adjusted might help my immune system. Okay. And an honor to be there for you,
Wow.
Yeah. So you know what, I'm open to whatever the universe brings me that day. I will never say to somebody, I can't help you. I will say to you, what I'm doing to you is not A plus B will equal a C result. It's I'm going to give you 110% of what I have and what I find, and whatever your body does with it, I'm open to it. Let's keep those expectations there, So there's been some stuff, and yeah, it's humbling sometimes,
It's really
and
amazing.
the founder son of chiropractic, BJ Palmer, who really developed the profession, had a quote that said, "You never know how far reaching one thing you say, think, or do will affect the lives of millions tomorrow." And that's kind of how I try to live my everyday, because I don't know who's coming into the office each day. And you know what? And it might be just something somebody says that I'm keyed in with, and I go, you know what? I think you need to go get that looked at, because that might not be a chiropractic thing. Let's get you adjusted and let's go find out the answer. And, just being present with that person on that individual basis is huge. And yeah, it's cool. It's humbling.
That's amazing. That's
So
amazing. You
yeah,
should be
so
very proud.
I really the bulk of my practice is people I've been seeing for 20 years. They come in on a, maybe a once a week basis, a once a month, or when they need it basis. I really don't like the really acute low back pains and I don't like that type of care. I don't like the car accidents. I don't like the work injuries. I mean, I'll service my people that have been hurt in those situations, but if I had to do that every day, because to me, it's not chiropractic. It's just really, getting them to think differently, whether it be trying chiropractic or, hey, Leo, please, for the 100th time, just don't eat bread at breakfast. Try it. Just try it and see what happens,
Yeah.
And it's those little things, because I have the privilege of seeing somebody a lot more frequently than a general practitioner. If you go to a general practitioner maybe once a year, they don't know you. I take care of generations. Like, I have one family, it's like 3 generations I'm taking care of. So I know the history. I
Wow.
remember that you fell, and I've been to a funeral, I've been to a wedding, I mean, so we know these people, and it's kind of cool. It's that family practice model in a sense. So I'm privileged to, or have the insider information that, a general practitioner might not have. So you can see
Yeah.
a trend, or remember when this happened. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Right. So that's cool.
Special. Special. That's a
It's very
special
special.
relationship. That's
Absolutely.
very cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
Wow. This would be
So
a good time to ask you about the diet. You found a ketogenic diet, which led you down this path to finding a carnivore diet, which I would also argue is pretty damn miraculous from the results I've seen. And I don't feel like it's bold to use that word, but let's hear your experience through nutrition. What were you going through personally? I find that most people have to have some kind of valley of suffering before they find some of these less conventional ways of eating. And I'm sure that was the case with you.
yeah, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I got really all my nutritional information from Muscle and Fitness, going to GNC and following the early days of bodybuilding, and eating bruised yeast because Joe Weider said to,
Nice.
crazy stuff when you think about it, and then in chiropractic school, and like I said, and you can probably acknowledge it, I think differently, but I remember we didn't have a whole lot of nutritional training, but the guy that was teaching us nutrition, and I don't even want to say it was a wackadoo. Like, this guy was out of his mind. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. He was an older guy. You could tell he wasn't taking care of himself, even though he was a chiropractor, but he was teaching us nutrition. And all of a sudden he was going to take himself off of his diabetes medication by eating bacon and eggs. And now this was probably in 94. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
this guy is a complete wackadoo. Now, I had just come out of, sports performance classes, carbo loading, in undergrad. And, that was the trend, this was even pre-creatine. Like, this was early 90s nutrition, right? And I'm like, this guy is completely wackadoo. Like, I can't even listen to him, because even as a chiropractor and a free thinker, I couldn't wrap my head around it, right? So, like, this guy's nuts. So I was lucky. I was still young, so I was still able to eat what I wanted. I was working out and stuff. And then, like a Ken Berry, you get into your zone and you get into practice, and your health becomes less of a priority. And, you started to gain a little bit more weight. And then I'd go to a seminar, and then like South Beach diet came out. Oh, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. So we kind of dabbled with that, kind of a little bit of elimination of carbs, but not really understanding why. And we got some good results, and we felt good. And then we had our first child, and then you let yourself go, so you just kind of, just life happens, man. It happens to me too, right? So, I mean, I think at one point I got up to about 265. And I was, you look in the mirror and go, wow, I have 2 kids, and I'm not really feeling great about myself. And you get that, I don't want to go back to the office after lunch. I'm just, just not really feeling good. I'm like, this is weird. So then that young family comes back into my life, the one I was telling you about, the seizure disorder. We're trying to work on our daughter with the ketogenic diet. And I'm like, wow, the ketogenic diet, what's that? Then you go back. So then, our level of understanding of what that guy in the early 90s was trying to convey really started to grow, right? So I started to dabble in that. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And it was intriguing to me because it was counterculture in a sense, right? And that, being an only child from the 80s and 90s, there's counterculture. I'm all in. I don't even care what it is. I'll worry about
Absolutely.
if it's true or not later, right? So I'm like, oh, this is cool. So, all right, no carbs. So, kind of going that way. And it worked well. And then, I was just having this conversation with the patient. He's looking to change because he's seen the results in me, and he's seen them last, right? Because a lot of times, if you try a fad, wow, you look great. But then all of a sudden, 2 years later, you look like shit again, right? It's just, it doesn't last because it's not a change, right? You don't change, you fix something, but you don't make a change. And he's like, you've been doing this for 5-6 years. You still look great. Your skin, you look better than you did when I started coming to see you. And I explained it to him why. And I said to him, it's like the whole low carb journey has been like studying the martial arts for me, if you will, right? You start off as a basic, and a white belt may be, hey, you know what? When you go to McDonald's today, just eat the burger, throw away the bun. And don't have half the fries. That's white belt level, right? Then you're like, I'm going to try it without the fries today. And you just had a thing where you had a salad and you had a third less carbohydrates. Oh, I felt I lost 2 pounds. Like, this is something, right? So as you start to go on this journey, then you get into, I'm gonna start following a YouTuber on keto, right? So that becomes like your green belt, and you're starting to learn the technique of low carb. And then, then you really start to dabble, do some crazy things to get into a higher advancement. And then you start teaching others, right? Because that's when we learn, we start sharing it with our family. So now you're instructing the little white belts, and then you start to find your own flow. And I feel that coming into or finding that carnivore lifestyle, I started to get my black belt when I started to become carnivore. And I'm not a master by any means, but as a black belt, continues their journey and becomes more confident, they're less rigid in their technique, and they kind of take that basis and that foundation and they make it their own. So if you look at a master, they're almost like effortless. It's fluid, right? So carnivore to me, as restrictive, and I don't mean it in a derogatory, the more restrictive I am, the more free I am, right? Because I feel better, I have more fluidity, it's a better expression of me. And my carnivore style might be slightly different than Dr. Baker's style, but for me, we're both we're peers, we're masters in that sense, because it works for me, right? So that whole journey, and it flubs, and sometimes, I was at that concert last night with my daughter up in Boston, and across the street from the Boston Garden is probably one of the best pizza places on the planet. And guess what?
Wow.
I had a slice of pizza. Shoot me. Whatever. It's okay. But you know what I mean? We're human, right? But I do recognize that that's not great, right? So I think that, there is this journey, and I think we have to, love ourselves enough to self-improve, love ourselves enough that when we make a mistake to not beat ourselves up about it, right? Love ourselves enough to be vulnerable to ask for help, because I don't know it all. And I don't listen to the radio anymore. I was listening to the people that you have on, all these other people, because even though we may have different opinions and ideas, we can all learn, and it fills in the little blocks that we're missing, right? Because not every, I'm not going to be a ribeye steak guy. I just can't tolerate fatty meat like that. So I have to find a way to add the fat in that is palatable to me, but yet still get that ratio that's effective for me. And that works, right? And I explain to people, some people can just like eat the meat. Oh God, I'm not going to get the t-shirt because I'm not eating the gristle too, like, Uncle Buck or whatever. But yeah, and I think that's where the mastery of having many voices is important, right? Because some people may listen to me and go like, oh, I can't, this guy talks way too much. I can't even understand what he's saying. Some people a little bit more direct, somebody seems a little, we all relate differently. And that's where that sphere is here. But yeah, I think that it's a journey, and it paced differently. And everybody's process is going to be different, because everybody starts at a point that is unique to them. Talking to somebody who's 70 years old, who has an A1C in their 7s or 8s, who's on 4 medications, is on the borderline of becoming insulin dependent, you get them off carbs, and a victory and a life-changing experience for them is to get their A1C into the 5s or 6 and 1 less metformin per day. That to them is a life-changing experience. Are they going to be completely metabolically healthy in their journey? No, it isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Can they be better? You betcha. You betcha. And they're going to struggle because they're addicted to those things that got them there. And whether you want to say it or not, we all are, because it's, I just want to get people addicted to the journey and the process. That's where I have found, for me initially, and I'm less conscious of it now, is, when you're in the ketone world, I like measuring my ketones and my blood sugars. And I love that. the device, and you do that. But then I found, well, okay, I'm chasing that rather than how I'm feeling. So I kind of got away from that because I didn't want to be held imprisonment of anything like the technology, or like I'm a big coffee drinker. Don't tell some in the carnosphere, but I love coffee. I grew up on coffee. It's my thing, right? But at one point I was like, I don't like being required to have coffee. So I went off it. I'm going to have the self-discipline to be off of it for 3 months. Okay. It was cool. I did it. I missed it because it was a multi-sensory thing. It was the making of it, the hot cup. It was the process. I enjoyed that. You know what? I'll deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the best decision for everybody? No, for me, I like it. I'm staying with it. But I have that self-love and that respect for myself to analyze that and determine what's best for me. Right.
Yeah.
And then share that experience with somebody else, because we're all going to fail. I mean, I have these patients that come in like, Doc, I ate it. You go. How was it? Was it good? Well, it tasted good. Well, how'd you feel immediately after? Oh, I felt like shit. Great. Perfect. Remember that. Imprint that. Just remember how you feel after that 3 donuts. It's going to suck. And I want you to remember how that feels. So the next time you decide to do it, you go, it's not worth the suck. And,
there you go.
And you make that better. And you make this better decision. So,
yeah. There you go. No, that's great. I realized this was a journey for you. It is a journey for everybody. I love the martial arts analogy. I'm definitely going to steal that one for sure. Let's just take endpoints. So let's take endpoints. Let's say the very beginning when you were starting to consider a low carbohydrate diet to let's just say where you are today doing primarily carnivore. What things are different? Again, realizing that there's a journey there, there's an arc there, and things improve gradually. But if we just say, absolute, I look back 10 years ago, these are the things I had and was dealing with. This is today, and what things do you not deal with anymore?
When I was at my heaviest, 265, new family, just freaking tired all the time, just tired. And I loved what I do and I loved everything, but just, man, it was always just tired. But I did suffer from a tremendous amount of back pain. Even though I get adjusted regularly, just, we're all young and dumb and do stupid stuff, and we cause tissue damage. My elbows, my wrists from, again, the martial arts. And then actually, the chiropractic is a physical job. So I would get all these pains and, it just kind of sucked a little bit. Then you see pictures, right? And then it was really, it's kind of sad to say, a lot of the early pictures we had of our family, we had to actually develop the pictures in order to see them. Now I'm looking on the phone going, holy shit, who's this guy? Oh my God, that's me? Oh, that's terrible, right? So just the self-awareness, I was like, oh, I don't look good. And I had an epiphany. I wasn't talking nutrition in the office, but people wanted to be feeling good and looking good. And I'm like, I don't look my best right now, So I dabbled and I got improvement and I felt gratification on the scale. Oh my God, look at that. I'm human. Like, I like people recognizing I look better. But honestly, I had skin tags. They're all gone. All the little things that you hear with me, perfectly gone. I used to come home at night and have 1, maybe 2 beers 3 or 4 times a week, just socially, nothing crazy, but you're almost not feeling the need for it, but it was part of my routine. Now that I've eliminated the crap from my diet, if the situation arises, you're sitting around at the house, we're having a barbecue, have a beer. I don't even have the stomach for it anymore, right? So my body, my taste buds have changed. And if I do have it, I mentally imprint how shitty I feel on it and go, it's not the best decision for me, right? Although it's like kind of a bummer because I had some good times doing that, but we'll find a different thing there. But my aches and pains completely go away. I wake up with no pain. If I'm off because I've had a bad few decisions over the last few days, I'm going to wake up and my shoulders, my elbows, I feel inflamed. I feel skeletally toxic, if you will. My sleep is rock solid now. I go to bed at 10. I wake up at 4, no alarm, just solid. It's just easy, when I was in the midst of really keto, with plants and just really watching the macros and really going there, my body weight went down to about 193, which is probably the lightest it's been since high school or even middle school. Who knows? But then once I started to transition into that the carnivore zone, I'm hovering around the 202, 203s without really even changing much. But I think my densities have changed. Right. I feel stronger. You look leaner, even though you're not doing things. And that was a mind shift for me too, right? Because you look at the scale like, oh my God, I'm fat bastard. It's just that the body changes, right? And that's okay. But I absolutely feel my best when I eat less and eat just carnivore, because when you're having the carbohydrate, it's so easy to overeat, eat volumes of food, and then it's that addictive craving to have more because it doesn't satisfy, and and I've recognized it's an absolute real addiction, the carbohydrates. I am no different than somebody who has a substance abuse problem, and I contain sugar, and carbohydrates are a substance that gets abused.
Agreed.
And when you have it, it's maddening how much it consumes you. But once you have the discipline and self-love to get out of it, you don't miss it.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's
That's my journey. I really wasn't suffering from any health issues, but okay, I'm going to be coming up on 50, a number of years ago. I have 3 young children. I want to be there for them for as long as I can. I don't want to suffer the ill health that my family might have suffered. I want to be different, and it's funny. I was watching another podcast, in order to be a rebel today, right? Where my Gen X days, you have to be counterculture is being healthy and vibrant as a 50-year-old who's on no medication, right? So
that's right.
I'm still defying culture, right?
Amazing.
So,
just like the Breakfast Club or
right. You got to flip the finger to the man somehow.
That's right.
I'm not going to take your pills because I'm going to be healthy.
That's amazing. So, well, okay. So that's amazing. As you have been using this on yourself, like that's one thing. And I've noticed that carnivore pretty much makes anything else go better. If I'm training you, like you're going to do better if you're on carnivore. I've seen people like do mental therapy counseling sessions, and like it just is going to be better. You're going to need less sessions, or the work is going to go a lot smoother if you're eating carnivore. It just seems to make everything better. So what have you noticed with your patients who have been excited to try, they decide to try carnivore? What is it like for you, the practitioner, working on these people?
Damn it, I have to see them less often. Isn't it horrible? No.
Terrible for business.
It's horrible. My business end is complete. No, you know what it is? It's those who have tried it and dabbled it. It's almost miraculous how they become in control. They brighten like a child that you've opened up this gift for them. And they're like, oh my God, I am in control somewhat of how I feel. Yes, I'm doing the training, I'm doing the chiropractic, but I can, with the decision I make today, almost anticipate how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And for them, it's like, oh my God, I have control of myself right now. And that for me has been the exciting thing. I'm talking about the other guy, Leo, who brought his A1C down from here to here. Another gal that I've been working with, she's lost 60 pounds. She's done amazing on her own. She's excited. She's taken like all these online classes. She's teaching me about certain aspects of it, sending me articles, which is fun, but she's excited about the possibilities of that next day rather than I'm just going to die this way, right? So that hope is there rather than that commiseration on a condition. That to me is humongous. It's huge, but I also set into that, you've been metabolically, skeletally, emotionally unwell for a long time. It's going to take a long time to get to your best. There's going to be ebbs and flows with that, but it's okay. It's okay. And it'll take a journey to get there. But giving them that ability to control what they do. And it's not a mystery. It's not, you don't have to have a white coat. I mean, you're changing lives without a white coat with your name engraved on your shirt, right? You're changing lives by getting people to think differently, just like I am, by making a better decision. And yeah, if that means you go to Wendy's for lunch, but you only have patties, you've made a hell of a choice.
That's right.
A life-changing choice, right? So we've instilled with them the tools in order to change their lives. And I think that's the coolest part. And it plays itself out with how they feel, less overall pain, less need. Like, I was seeing some people, you'd adjust them, they'd hold or maintain that correction 3-4 days, have to come back, hold, not hold, not hold, not hold. You get them off of that full body inflammatory response from seed oils, sugars, crap. And then they slowly wean themselves off of 1 or 2 medications. maybe they throw their statins in the trash because they don't feel the need for it anymore. Although I always recommend that they consult with their physician to do so. And guess what, Doc? I love seeing you. I'm just coming in because I think I want to stay connected to you and feel cool, but I don't need you like I needed you.
Amazing. It's
It's
amazing.
crazy, but the old timers, the chiropractors that I had referenced earlier that were getting like amazing cures, would see people intensively, but then the condition would go away. Okay, I'll see ya. Like, not even that wellness model that, we're so accustomed to now, because their bodies would heal. And, okay, I'm good. Thanks, man. I opened up, or I moved that obstruction to healing. So the innate God-given healing ability of that individual expressed itself. And guess what? It works. Look at the studies now. They show, guess what? Natural immunity is stronger than bottle given immunity. Amazing. Shocker.
Yeah, totally.
So it gives the people the ability to change and control their choices and their direction, and it gives them hope for improvement on their own without the requirement of an outside force, right? Healing comes from within and expresses itself out, not the other way around. It gives them that hope and that reason, no, I can make a difference with myself. Then it actually works because their bodies start to heal itself. And guess what? That's, oh my God, this is amazing.
Wow.
And sometimes it takes people 2 or 3 journeys around that sun to make the connection that it actually works, because they'll do it, they'll lose a few pounds for the wedding or to get into that dress. And then, that creep comes, bad habits come, and I'll start tomorrow. Then they're back up, they feel like shit again. And you remind them, what have you done? I know. And sometimes it takes them 3 or 4 journeys to go, I get it. I get it now. I'm tired of feeling that way.
Yep.
And we only hope that we can scream loud enough to get the people to realize that there is a fire before more people perish, right?
That's right.
Not everybody's going to believe us, but we hope that we can get that message out to enough people that go, yeah, I'm going to do it and I'm going to change.
Yeah.
And it happens. Like you said, the starfish.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Well, you, my friend, are screaming fire. You are doing your part to get this message across. You look incredible. I love hearing about your journey. It is so consistent with everything I've heard from other people by going carnivore, and you are sharing that message in a way that is accessible and in a way that's just so passionate. I can't thank you enough for taking time to be on our show today. Where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Yeah, if they want, my website is it's docblack.com, DocBlack.com. And, a funny journey on that is I used to, right when the web came out, I said, oh, this is a cool idea. I was still thinking differently. So I went out and I bought Narragansett Family Chiropractic.com, right? Which made sense. That was the name of my office. I tried to get it printed on a t-shirt, but it was too, like, you couldn't spell that, right? It would go all the way around. So then I stumbled upon docblack.com. But then, as a point you made, nobody can spell chiropractic, and they certainly can't spell Narragansett. So that web name is just kind of sitting there out in the web sphere anyway. But yeah, so it's docblack.com. I'm on the social media as that. I do have Instagram, chiropractic carnivore. Just trying to dabble with that again, but just look for me and I'm out there. And yeah, if people need a chiropractor in their area, let me know. We have a great network of traditional guys who do the work and are open to it, because we're all different. We all love our people our own way, but some people just need something different.
Yeah, that's amazing. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. I believe there is a huge number of Dr. Blacks out there in the world that would kill to have your domain. So congratulations for jumping on that and being an early adopter. Because the word was too long. Got to shorten it up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Christopher Black, this was amazing. I love your passion. I love everything that you bring to the table and how simple and easy you make this for people to do, and talking about the journey and just giving people that information. So thank you so very much for everything you do. And thank you for coming on our show today. We super, super appreciate you.
Thank you, Casey. It was a blast. Thank you.
It was way fun. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.